Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, good evening, sir. We've been transported. We're not on the Enterprise anymore. This is a change of venue here.
It's a different view, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Although you were doing a fine job of doing some decorating here, it's certainly an outstanding start. We don't have the plain walls that we did the last time we were here, so thank you for doing that.
I'm feeling a little bit inadequate, though, as we get started today.
Why is that?
During the pre-discussion, our guest had something to say about my beard.
Yeah?
Yeah, and
what was that?
It hurt my feelings.
We have a guest tonight?
We do.
Somebody should have told me.
They can see him, right?
Well, they will be able to see him after we're done introducing him, and then the video comes in, and he'll be smiling right in front of the camera. But right now they can't see him.
There's a little bit of an inside joke there. When our guest and I first met, we had that discussion a number of times about how we were hurting each other's feelings over time, and it continues to this day. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't think either one of you are that sensitive. So
yeah.
I think it's all in good fun.
That's why it was fun. That's why it's fun. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we have a handsome gentleman with us tonight, and
and we got a guest too.
Yeah, I was talking about myself. Yeah. So let me introduce our guest. We this particular occasion is more special because the building that we're sitting in, and we're at the brewery, by the way, which our listeners, Gerhard, have heard about many times in our podcast. But this building used to be owned by Gerhard Gschwandtner, who is our guest tonight, and that's how we met. We were looking for a property to buy to put a brewery in, and this office was on the market, and it was on a Sunday, and drove up to the property not thinking anybody would be here, just to kind of check it out, and there he was. Ended up spending a couple hours talking, I think, that very first day we met, and Gerhard is a special and unique guy. First of all, he started, founded, and continues to this day to be the CEO of Selling Power magazine, which is the most successful sales magazine in the world. I don't know if it started in this building, but it operated out of this building for a lot of years. So that's thing number one. He's also the latest part of his life that he is completely, well, not completely, but very focused on is a company called Mindset Science. He is the founder and CEO of that as well, with a particular focus on peak performance mindset, which is going to be the subject of what we talk about today. World-renowned keynote speaker, funny guy, bold, risk taker, good looking. What else can I say? All around nice guy, Gerhard. We're thrilled to have you and welcome, and thank you for giving us your time and your talents today.
Can you go on with the introduction?
He's like, yeah, bring more. That's good. Yeah.
You're doing all right now.
All right. Well, I can. Let's see. You got a wife and you got some children, and they speak highly of you. And we know Brian and I had the good fortune to meet at least one of your daughters.
Right.
And spent some time with her and listened to her talk at one of the conferences that we attended. That was great. And there's a whole bunch going on.
He's an up-and-coming rapper.
Oh,
right.
Oh, yeah.
We saw a sampling of that when we attended the conference out in Vegas, and I think maybe we need to get a copy of that video and put a little clip in the podcast video.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we get the audio.
Right.
We'll put it on the audio version as well.
Are you willing to share that with us?
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay. Oh, there we go. We'll grab a piece of it. However
Absolutely.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, so here we are. This is amazing. Thanks. We've been, Brian and I don't know, I'm assuming that you weren't completely aware of this, but we have talked about you many times on our podcast over the couple of years that we've been doing this. And I know that you're aware of one because we restated your rap, right? Did we quote it? What did we do on that one?
Yeah, we might have read it. I don't.
I think we kind of went back and forth with it.
Yeah.
Remember?
That's right. You
Yes.
reenacted it.
Right.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
We reenacted it.
All right, so yeah, if you don't bring that back up in your subconscious, the folks that are trying to replay that, don't just wait for the original, and you'll hear
Okay.
it on this podcast and see it on this video. So
So this is what I want to start with you, Gerhard. How do you for many years run a successful sales magazine with incredible success? And one of the things that I remember from the very first day that I met you was walking into your office, one door over, and seeing these pictures of you with some of these incredible people, true people that I admired over the years. That are your friends. And how do you go from that world to now a new focus on the mindset science and the peak performance mindset thing? What was that journey for you?
Well, that's an interesting question because I think everybody transitions from one stage of life to another. And in the course of life, you run across ideas that you don't want to let go. You want to explore. You're curious. You want to know more about that mystery. And to me, the mystery was I've interviewed so many highly successful people. And what surprised me is that we're fully functioning on a cognitive level, on an emotional level, on a physical level, on a financial level, and seems like they got it all. And I thought there must be a secret sauce. But when you interview those people, they cannot even tell you how they became successful. I mean, there's a saying that history is the story of the winner, but that story is usually made up by writers. And we are all driven more or less by something I think that's unconscious. We all unconsciously want to succeed. We want to be successful, and it's hard to describe what drives people to success. And I thought we got great stories from I interviewed Mary Kay Ash, the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, or Malcolm Forbes, or Isadora Sharp, who is the brain behind the Four Seasons Hotel. And I remember...
Are you guys hearing all these names, by the way? Keep going. This is good.
Mark Benioff, who is the founder of Salesforce.com. It's really interesting to hear those people talk and listen to their stories. And then I became aware we all have a narrative that defines us, where we explain who we are to ourselves and then to other people. But the real drivers behind that narrative are not articulated. They're never really explored. And I remember an interview we did with a Harvard Business School professor who was also a psychoanalyst. And he was he fascinated me because he wrote a paper back in the 60s, The Management of Disappointment. And I thought, that's the opposite of success, because the opposite of success is not failure. It's really disappointment. And there was no book on that topic. So I went to Harvard Business School, got an appointment with him, spent an hour with him, and he taught me really that we invest in ideas and fantasies. And we create sort of that vision of ourselves through that conversation we have with ourselves, and that drives us towards success. However, if the fantasies are not realistic, we're going to set up ourselves for massive disappointment, where people get depressed. And I said, give me an example. And he says, well, I have an entrepreneur who, got his first $1 million in the bank, and he already had like 250 employees, and he was making cash, creating cash year over year, and becoming more and more successful, but feeling more and more depressed. And then he went through analysis and found out that as a kid he was competing with his older brother, and his mom liked his older brother more, and his older brother never really was very successful, but he became very successful, and he thought because he worked very hard and became successful that his mom would like him more.
Okay.
Which is an illusion.
Right.
So we are chasing pipe dreams, and we need to become aware of what really drives us. And that's how I jumped into the mindset, because I wanted to discover, what does the mindset look like? And there's this book by Dr. Carol Dweck, who writes about the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And I thought, it's like two faces of a coin. Either you grow or you don't grow. That's not a dynamic model, in my opinion, although the book is very interesting to read, and I recommend it to anybody who wants to learn about the mindset. But to me, the foundation of the mindset is really the implanted mindset. What is implanted in us is the residue of the relationships we had with our parents, with our caretakers, with our family, with our siblings. And that is a sort of almost like a blueprint that we act on later in life. And then there's a second level, which is the imprinted mindset. Those are the experiences we have when we work with people that are impressive, that know a lot, when we work with teachers, with mentors, with good bosses, good leaders. And the imprinted mindset is something that we co-create with those people. And there's a third level, which I call the inspired mindset. And that is the voice that we all have. And I remember the interview with Mary Kay, where she said, we are all born with an instrument, and we need to learn what it is. And once we learn what it is, we need to learn how to play it. And she says, unfortunately, so many people die with their music still unplayed.
Mm. Yeah. And that's sad when you think about it, and right. That's a cool story, though. That just that comment, man, that resonates, with, you talk about regret and, people on their deathbed, the things that are going through their mind that they didn't do, didn't make an effort at, and always wanted to. And yeah, that's right up that alley.
So really our challenge is to sort out those three areas: implanted, imprinted, and inspired. And always bet more on the inspired mindset, because this is who you truly are. Always reach out to other mentors and leaders that can guide your thinking and shape your ideas and shape your future. But I think we need to carefully sort of look at the residue of the past and look at it as if it was a garden. You look at a garden that has flowers and has trees and has fruits and has weeds. So our job is to continue to water the flowers and stop watering the weeds, and let go of what doesn't grow, because you want to grow past your parents. And some people have an enormous conflict where they think because that their father was a lawyer, they need to be a lawyer, or there was a dentist. Kids, when my kids grew up, I saw them, walk around in my shoes. They were much too big for them, but they had fun. And I think that we all want to be like our parents to a certain extent, and then we differentiate. And I think this is the biggest challenge for anybody. You want to become the best version of you. You want to become an individual that's authentic, autonomous, and independent. But at the same time, we want to be part of a team. We want to be connected to other people. We want to be one with people we love. And that is a challenge for everybody, to be autonomous and be part of something. And we were once part of something that was not always good for us, because a lot of people had parents that were dysfunctional, or parents that got divorced, or parents that were abusive, or parents that did not encourage their children to grow, and to let go of that is so important, because if you carry the weeds, your implanted mindset, with you, and you operate on a blueprint that creates a dynamic in your mind where you are subject to neurotic, repetitive misery, and you want to let go and replace it for the common but fleeting occasional human suffering, and accept that.
Yeah, Brian and I talk about this issue all the time, and you just hit on it. And the question I will end with, well, I'll end with it when I get there. But it is that so many people drift through life, never taking the time to stop and think about these things that you've just described: the implanted, the imprinted, the inspired. I've heard that from you before, obviously. And I love the metaphor of the garden as well, because that's exactly right. It's just perfectly stated about all of these things that are in your life, some of which you can choose to pay attention to, prune, fertilize, make them bigger, stronger, faster, and other ones that you should ignore. But most people don't. They don't do it. They just don't take the time, and they just sort of drift through life, or they do what their spouse tells them to do, or why is that?
Well, I think Zig Ziglar said it best. We all have a choice to be either a wandering generality or a meaningful specific. So it's really a choice.
I love that. Wow. So Zig said that. A wandering generality or a specific.
A meaningful specific.
Meaningful specific. Okay. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about the garden.
Okay.
And because there's enormous value in that, because the water is part of the food. Here's what's interesting about the flowers versus the weeds. The flowers need the water more than the weeds do, and the weeds can survive without it, and will ultimately choke out the flowers. So how do you, just withholding water from the weeds, and maybe I'm thinking too much into this, but just withholding water from the weeds might not be enough. How do you go about the physical act or mental act of pulling those weeds?
Chop them down, grind them up. Yeah.
Well, I think that the term family implies that things are familiar. And what we are familiar with, those things are dear to us. And therefore, we love the weeds. We are attracted to them because they're part of us. They're part of our identity. And to let go of something that's part of us is scary. However, once you look at the narrative, the story that's underlying all this, like, I give you a personal example. I remember a conversation between my mom and my dad where they were talking about me, and they didn't know I was in the room. And my dad said very distinctly that Gerhard will never amount to anything. There is something not right in his head. And
Yeah.
and
I don't know why that's funny.
Yeah. That's an awesome thing for a child to hear, right?
exactly.
Oh.
And my mom said, well, he thinks differently, but he gets things done, something like that. She
Right.
defended me.
Right.
But that voice and that story, that weed, was operating when I made my decision to start that publishing business,
Right.
where I said to myself, I want to start that company. And what sounded familiar was getting a salary, getting a paycheck, getting having a routine job, and get paid for what I do. And then that voice came back to me, you never amount to anything. And I remember friends saying similar things, you're going to crash and burn, you're taking too much risk. And I thought, in the first week when I started my new business, in that first week I was 3 or 4 times more productive compared to what I did before for another company, because I worked for myself. And then all of a sudden I realized that I don't have to depend on other people anymore. I can only depend on myself. And then I affirmed my own voice and drowned out the weed, drowned out all the others. And the more you do that, in the beginning it's really scary, but once you do it, you get that, what I would call self-encouragement, that voice, the music that is still on plate, where you tell yourself you can do it, and you can allow yourself to fail. You can allow yourself to make a mistake, but you learn from it, you grow from it, and then you pass it on to other people.
Yeah, you just reinforce another principle that we've talked about many times, and that is the concept of taking action. So you decided, for whatever reason, and all those reasons that you described, that you were going to do something. And as soon as you do something, the world begins to give you feedback, right? To let you know how you're doing, and you notice immediately, wow, I'm willing to work a lot harder at this because it's mine, and I own it, and I'm the one that's going to reap the rewards. And so for our listeners, that's one of the things is, we've said it 100 times, we'll say it 101, take action. Think about where you're at, what you're doing, and take action so you can get that feedback. Because if you just kind of sit here and drift, eventually the train comes and runs you over.
Yeah. Be a moving target.
Right.
Take action.
Right.
And to go back to your earlier question, why mindset? And I found that I'm best when I'm pushed against a wall where I know this is going to be difficult, and that difficulty attracts me. And that's why I created the Mindset course. I taught about 50 trainers, certified them. They're teaching this now. And then I thought I want to have a deeper impact on people. And that's how I created the Mindset Retreat. And you were participating in that.
Right.
And you saw the transformation that has taken place in that room and in the outside experiences, like on the racetrack or jumping out of an airplane.
Right.
Yeah, so we've mentioned that several times, but let's call that out for folks that are listening that might be interested in attending that. Can you tell them a little bit more about how they go about doing it, when the next one is, and so on?
Yeah, we're going to do one in November in Las Vegas. We go on a racetrack and we allow people to choose from a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or a McLaren or a Porsche to drive 165 miles an hour on the racetrack and just learn from the instructor that's riding next to you and giving you cues on when to brake, when you accelerate, and how to get the optimum performance out of the car. But it's really a metaphor for your own performance, because the car can handle more than your brain can, and your brain needs to catch up with that. And it's the same in real life. Your brain can deliver a much higher level of success, personally, financially, or physically, than what you think you're capable of. And that's why we have that experience. We're jumping out of an airplane. In the last event, there was this guy from Toronto who had a fear of heights. And he called me before the event and he says, I'm not sure I should go because I have that fear of heights. And I said, well, when you do the things you fear, then the fear will disappear. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, well, you need to experience that. And he did a tandem jump. And he stayed in the hotel on the 32nd floor with a balcony. And up until that moment, he could not even go out on the balcony because of the fear of heights. And after the first parachute jump, he opened the door and sat on the balcony and enjoyed a beer. And
Nice.
and he wondered, where did it go? And then after the course, he did another parachute jump. And after that, he went to Hoover Dam because 3 years earlier, he wanted to walk on Hoover Dam and take in the sights, and he couldn't do it because of his paralyzing fear. And he did it. He enjoyed himself. And then he went back on the plane trip back to Toronto and talked to his wife, and he says, I don't know where my fear went. My fear disappeared. And I worry maybe it will come back. And she says, well, we can test that. He has never been able to step on a step ladder beyond the first rung, and she says there's a light bulb.
That's a fear
Yeah,
there.
that's
Right.
immobilizing fear. Yeah.
Yeah, and she brought the step ladder and said, change the light bulb.
And off he went.
Off he went, he did
Yeah.
it. And he called me last week and he said, in June, I'm going to get my first solo parachute jump.
Wow.
And there's
Ooh.
nothing that can hold me back now.
Wow. So just a little more information for our audience about these conferences that Bryant and I attended. In addition to these events that are intended to sort of shake you up and break you out, just like you described, there's also classes and lectures
Right.
and people coming in and talking to you. And that is equally as valuable because you get to hear from true subject matter experts in various components of peak performance mindset that they happen to specialize in. And so you combine those two things together into one event, and you walk away literally as a different person because that's a case of taking the time to think about who you are, where you're going, what you want to do, and what are those things that either you're doing really well or you're not doing so well, and why are they there, and helps you kind of think about it and get it straightened out. And I saw Bryant improve dramatically as a result because
I'll tell you,
he was kind of
you described it pretty well when you were talking about the driving, right, and the experience you have there, because I've had some high speed driving training before, and those cars, to your point, can do way more. They've got much more capability than I think most of us are comfortable tapping into. And it was interesting to see, how late you could brake before getting to the curve. And it's, I'm wanting to brake, and I'm fighting that because I know that the instructor's going to tell me when to brake. And I tell you, man, it's amazing how close to that curve you can get and crank down on the brake, and just little things like that. It was an eye-opening and mind-shifting experience.
It's really a paradox because when you think about racing, you think that the key to winning is the accelerator. It's actually not stepping on the brake.
Yeah,
Too early.
Too early.
Right.
Yeah.
Only use it when you need to.
Right.
Killing the momentum. Right. It reminds me of it was either and one of you guys probably knows who said this. I think it was either Henry Ford or Thomas Edison that said the quote, something like Kevin Harkin's paraphrased version here. If we allowed ourselves to do and be the person that we're capable of doing and being, we would literally astound ourselves. And we don't. Most people just don't do it. Some do, and those are the people who, they're hard to relate to even,
Right.
because they're so up there and out there that you're like, wow, where'd that come from? Most of us are afraid to go there.
Yeah, for anybody who is ready for a transformation, go to mindsetscience.com. We're going to have an amazing event in Vegas. I'm trying to get the founder of a company that developed a jetpack. It's called Jetpack Aviation. So you strap yourself to a jetpack, turn on the jets, and you take off.
Do you go tandem, or I want to do that? I've dreamed about that since I was a kid. I want to do a jetpack, but they were never safe enough until just recently.
Well, they have a training where they have a crane. They have you on a tether.
Yeah. On a tether. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you're not going to go away and not come back.
Right.
Right.
Right. Go up there. Yeah. Well.
Stepping out of the comfort zone. That's the thing. That's scary, and it's thrilling and chilling at the same time.
And are there techniques that you have that you teach or that you're aware of that will help people do that? Because we have people listening and they're thinking, okay, right. I got it. I'm willing to get in this.
I think that the first step is to become more mindful. And we are in an age where there's so much data, there's so much information, there's so much news, there's so much fragmented news out there, where it's really hard to have a coherent image of what is going on in the world. And that external incoherent image now takes shape in our consciousness, where we have a similar feeling that we are not fully shaped, that we are not clear, that we feel very conflicted because the outside world is so conflicted. So in order to change, you want to create a basis of clarity, and clarity comes with slowing down. So ask yourself the question, is your mind full or are you mindful? And mindfulness is all about
that's
just
good.
That's catchy and powerful.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes for a second and just breathe in and breathe out. And when you breathe in, you say to yourself, I'm aware of my body. As you breathe out, you say, I'm letting go of all my tension. So you do this about 3 or 4 times. And then something changes, because you give your brain a signal to relax, to empty the mind, to let go. And that's where the personal growth begins. And all successful people, Mark Zuckerberg or Mark Benioff or Nadia Satella, or Tim Cook, they all practice mindfulness. They all meditate. It's nothing religious. But here's the interesting part. If you want to go to the next step, then you want to sort of look at the theater of your mind and just be still and focus on breathing and see what pops up, what thoughts emerge. And when thoughts emerge, mine may be, hey, you never amount to anything. So you let that thought in. You don't fight it. You treat any negative thought like a guest in a guest house that you own and say, have a seat. And that thought is not going to stay forever, because thoughts come and go, and that's the way the brain works. By consciously accepting negative thoughts and let them into your space and allowing them to be, they disappear. They go. They float away because you own the guest house. Or you can engage the thought, hey, where do you come from? You come from a long time ago, a remnant of the past. Tell me your story, And then you learn something about you. You learn the old dialogue, and you learn what's not true about you anymore because you've grown up. And then you can construct your own narrative. And another way to do that, constructing your own narrative, is to go in another space, like close your eyes and imagine that every brain cell is now connected to every star in the universe. How amazing is that? We are part of all that, the same atoms, the same chemical elements, and you can shift your mind and just imagine how your brain cells are connected to every person that has ever lived on this planet, from the people in the caves that had longer beards than yours.
Mine's inadequate,
just
by
in
the way.
yours,
That's
though.
what he said. Said.
Notice he only pointed to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about Attila the Hun. Think about the Vikings. Think about the Greeks. Think about Socrates or Aristotle. You're part of all of those people. We are part of all of those ancestors. And we are standing on the shoulders of giants. So we have benefited from all their thinking. And you want to extend your thinking based on theirs and not based on your family thinking. That's the shift. That's how you're going to grow.
Yeah. It reminded me of people who are listening, and also people that I know will say, you hear it all the time, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, I'm whatever, you name the, and I am who I am. I'm now of an age where I'm not going to change. I'm going to continue to just live my life out, being who I am, and I don't have any control over it, and that's the way it is.
Well, and they're absolutely right for as long as they continue to walk around and declare that.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exercising your own choice. It also reminds me of Dr. Wayne Dyer. When I interviewed him, I remember going to his house, and I said, well, what if you had an unhappy childhood and you just want to repeat the past over and over and say, I'm formed now, I don't want to change? And he said, God, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. We can play right now. We can play basketball. We can do anything we want.
Check that out. See, that is so supportive of my claim that I'm never going to grow up. I'm just a 5-year-old with however many years of experience.
Excuse my ignorance here. I want you to say some more about that, because I'm not exactly tracking. Are you saying you go back and rewrite in your brain the history of your childhood, or are you saying that you sort of revert back temporarily in the moment?
Okay, let me sort it out for you.
Sorry.
There's a theater in your mind.
Yes.
And there are actors, and those are your family members. And then there's a script that has been written by your experiences.
Right.
And you are the owner of the theater. You are the director.
Yeah.
So you can direct the actors to say anything you want.
Okay.
So if that's your dad who tells me you'll never amount to anything, I can ask my dad to say what?
Right. Cut. You're the director. Cut. And yeah. What do you want him to say?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You are a talented and intelligent, growing individual that's going to get better and better with every year, because you use your wisdom, you use your insights to grow yourself beyond my capabilities. As a grown-up, you should be able to say, I've exceeded my parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the words that and we've said this before, so that you have to be careful. Words have meaning. Words have power. And as a parent, if you hadn't realized this before, hopefully you do now by understanding the magnitude of what you say and how important it is, and the impact, long-lasting impact it can have on a child. Well into their elder years, or it just, unless somebody with intention does something to change that way of thinking, that can be stuck there for a long time and have a negative impact on what you achieve in life, your level of happiness. So many things, and it's important to understand that as a parent, and it's also important to understand that as a person, that you have the power to do something about that. And that's beautiful. People need to hear that. And I'm not sure, where do people, other than things like you're doing and, other things out there of a similar vein, where do folks learn this, We I don't know that it's taught in our standard educational system, along with a lot of other things that aren't taught that should be, that have a huge impact on your life.
Yeah. There's a British fellow, Alain de Botton. He has created the School of Life, and he's on YouTube. He makes a lot of sense. He has, taught a lot of that stuff, like how to deal with your own emotions, how do you deal with your inner conflicts, and how to come to a place where you are growing happily.
The School of Life. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was back to the changing the story in your head, which is great. And I know that I'm all kind of things running through my head. So I go back to years after the incident occurred. I thought of it when you were talking, Bryant. I had a conversation with my daughter about when she was playing softball back in elementary school. She was on the softball team, and I said something after she struck out, and she, when I was playing baseball, I was taught you never get struck out standing there. You always swing. If you strike out and you're swinging, at least you're swinging. And in this one particular case, the final pitch, she didn't swing at it, and it was a strike, and that was it. She struck out. And so I said something to her, and I don't even remember what I said, but man, it scarred her. It created something in her head that made her not have a good memory about any of this for years. And I had no idea, absolutely no idea. There are people out there who are hurting from things like this exact kind of thing that have happened over time that you now, and that's the thing, individual people, we have the power to change that, to change the meaning of it in our head. And I mean, of course, I've now had the conversation with her and all is well. But, as a parent, you don't even know you're doing it sometimes, and you still do. And then that carries with them. It's just, it can be tough. It really, you don't even understand a negative impact with no intention. I'm trying to teach her how to be a better baseball player, softball player.
Right.
And somehow the way I said it really made a negative impact.
Well, what happens to children? They identify with their performance, and as an adult, you learn that you are not your performance.
Yeah.
You are separate from your performance.
Right.
You can strike out, and it doesn't change you.
Right. Yeah.
But in her case, you unintentionally made a statement that she misconstrued with her identity.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and you don't see it coming. And so that's why as individuals it's important for us to take ownership of it. Now that we're adults, now that we are of an age of reason and we can do this, we have to take control of our mindset and get a hold of it. And that is a theme that Brian, that's a drum that we have beat many, many times. But you can't. It is worth repeating because you can't get enough of it.
Yeah, if you're never striking out, then you need to go up to the next league because you're clearly you've got more skill than the league that you're playing in.
You're punching below your weight instead of above your weight,
exactly.
right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we want to live on the edge where life is challenging, so the best can come out of you.
Yeah,
that's
right. So
go out there. Challenge. Here's a challenge for folks. Go out there and scare yourself.
Absolutely.
Just go figure out something and go scare yourself, and move beyond that fear.
And then surprise yourself. Yeah. I have experimented recently. When the pandemic came, I changed my habits, changed my exercise routine, went for daily walks. But I stopped watching television because there's so much negative news.
Oh,
and
I
downloaded a chess app, and my chess rating in the beginning was like 600, and you can play against the computer, you can play against other machines, and you can do exercises and learn. And so I pushed myself in like 6 months to about 900. And then my grandson got into a chess club in school. He's 10 years old. And we played online. And I thought, he's really good. He's only 10 years old and he's challenging me.
Yes.
So guess what I did?
You bought him a chess set.
I bought him a chess set, but I went into higher gear and challenged myself to play 1100 and 1200.
Got to dial it up.
And then I found out he was learning so fast that he was getting coaching from a grandmaster every Saturday. So I went on to a tutoring site and found myself a grandmaster.
You know, has he seen the movie Magnus?
Yes.
Okay, that's a great movie.
Right.
That's true
Magnus
story.
Carlsen. Yeah, it's a great documentary.
It is a great documentary. Right.
Or The Queen's Gambit. That's another great movie.
It is a great movie.
But the thing, what I discovered is that when I was losing, I got the old voices back. And the minute I discovered it, go away. I'm focusing on my next level. I'm growing. And I really began to enjoy losing like 10 games in a row. And then with game 11, I do a tie with a much higher level person. And then all of a sudden, I win more games in that category. And that is a process that is very similar in any other field, whether you learn skiing or skydiving or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you just talked about that, the old voices popping up, this visual popped into my head of you sitting there playing chess, and then there's a knock on the door. And you look over to see who's at the door, and it's those old voices, and you just choose not to let them in.
Right.
Keep going back and focusing on what you're doing.
Right. You stay in your swimming lane.
Remind me not to play you in chess.
I will.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. I don't need any more humiliation. I've had enough of it in my life. So I know you will. I have the number system.
Well, it just so happens that
there it is. Let me pull it out of my pocket here.
Right.
And let's get to it.
$20.
Right. Oh, now we're talking about money. Okay. Well, man, now I'm more interested.
Right.
I'm not actually, because that just means it's a guaranteed $20 loss for me.
Right. Just give them the $20 and we'll keep talking.
Why do you joke about humiliation?
Why? Why? I don't know. It sounded funny in the moment. Probably because I've been humiliated before. Yeah, I'm sure of that. Probably many times in my life. There you go.
You want to say more about that?
No, I don't. No.
He's like, man, I opened a door I didn't want to.
No. I mean, that's nothing, just life. Everybody's been humiliated.
How big is that garden?
My garden is amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah.
How big are the weeds?
I don't have many weeds.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I'm killing those suckers. Roundup, man.
That stuff causes cancer, man. Stay away from it.
All right. Well, I'll just whatever the eco-friendly is, that's what I'm using.
An eco-friendly weed whacker.
Yes.
Just reach down and grab them and pull them out.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. See, the thing is that we all have scars. We all have our hurts and humiliations and disappointments. And we need to remind ourselves that we can make a choice to enjoy life or repeat the old scripts.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to become aware. What is the old script? What is the old drama? Because in a way, we have two theaters in our mind, the upstairs and the downstairs. And the upstairs is the present moment. And the downstairs is what happened in the past. So it's time to be aware that whenever something enters your consciousness, that you can say, have a seat over there. I'm busy right now. I want to focus.
There you go. It's a good way to do it. I like that metaphor as well.
So I have to ask you this. I know Kevin mentioned when we first started that we're in the building that you are the former owner of, and I like to think I don't like to live in the past, but and at the same time I think the past you must learn from it. And then there's also fond memories and things.
Right.
So I'd be interested to hear, what goes through your mind when you walk back through the door of this building that you spent so much time with. What kind of emotions are connected to it and so on?
Great question.
Yeah, I love the the way the idea evolved, where we became more and more successful with the publishing business, that I invested in 2 parcels here and just put it aside, parked the money. And then when we made more money, I realized this is the amount we make. We pay in rent, and this is the amount we need to make, the extra, in order to have a mortgage. And then at one point we thought, it doesn't make sense to be a renter. Let's shift it and flip the model and build a building. And once we owned it, I thought, well, there's a lot of responsibility, but it's not that mysterious. And we actually made money by becoming the owner and renting the building to ourselves. But it also translated into better teamwork. People came into the building and they enjoyed themselves, and it was a great lift. And there was one moment that was really the peak for me, where I was invited in New York. A publishing company wanted to buy us, and I was sitting in a big meeting room and had like 7 vice presidents. We had lunch, and everybody's asking me questions about the business and about circulation and distribution and finance, and to make a long story short, at the end of the meeting, they handed me a piece of paper and said, "We want to buy your company for $10.5 million." And I had to look at this twice. I didn't believe it at first, and I said, "I'll get back with you." And on the elevator ride down, I thought, wow, this is a lot of money. What decision do I make now? And I thought, well, I can think about it. And then I called my wife and I said, I got this offer letter. Should we sell the company for $10.5 million, or should we continue? And she said, what's in your heart? And I said, I kind of feel the business is like a baby that is growing, and it's growing up. And I don't want to send the baby away. I want to continue to do what I love, because we really don't need the money. I hate that image of sitting on money and just growing fat, dumb, and happy, and not knowing what to do with it. And I was really listening to the voices of other entrepreneurs, to be honest, because some of them told me that the misery really started when they realized that what they gave up in exchange for the money was really what nurtured them. Because one guy said, what I miss most is being part of a team that kicks butt.
Yeah, that's it. I can totally relate to that, and I can think of people in my life who have made the other decision to take the money. And boy, what a profound effect it's had on their lives, and not necessarily in a good way. They just sort of kind of fall off a cliff intellectually. They don't have the same energy. They don't have the same drive. They got the money, but they don't. But there's all kind of other stuff that just kind of stopped. And boy,
yeah,
that's not me.
Potentially lose their purpose.
Yeah. So we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. In fact, I'm sure we wouldn't, because whoever that publishing company in New York would have had this building. And
yeah, they would have probably wrecked it in 2 years, and then I could have bought it back for $1.5 million.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Keep running. Have a whole lot more money while you're doing it. Anyway, here you are, still fighting the fight. That's awesome.
I think the lesson really to be learned is you got to answer the question in your mind: do you want meaning or do you want money? Of course, everybody says, I want both. But money, growing money is is sort of an American pastime. Everybody buys that fantasy. But I remember I've interviewed a financial consultant in Denver, Colorado, and we had this long conversation about the philosophy of more versus the philosophy of enough. And he said the philosophy of more is like the philosophy of the cancer cell. You know, if you make 5 million, you want 10. If you make 10 million, you want 50. When you make 50 million, you want 100 million, and you want to be a billionaire. And that is a rat race. Whereas the philosophy of enough, you define, what do you need for your family? What do you need for yourself to make you happy, to make yourself function in an optimal way where you don't have any wants and needs. You know, billionaires cannot spend, you know, $1 billion on themselves. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So that is the big question. Do you want meaning, want money? Ideally, you want both, and you want to keep a balanced life.
Yeah, the balance. I think that's a key word for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
This has, you know, this hour that we record has gone by in a blink. You know, I'm just fascinated sitting here listening to you. Wealth of knowledge and the information that you share with folks is life-changing, providing they allow it to be. You know, they've got to be willing to hear it and then take action to do something about it. That's I applaud you for all that you've done and everything you continue to do. I thoroughly enjoyed our experience in Vegas and look forward to engaging in something like that again in the future. So I thank you for taking time to be here tonight and sharing with the folks that listen and watch this. I know there's somebody out there that is going to be listening to this after it's released, and you're going to change their life.
Yeah. Lives will be changed. That's what I love about what we're doing here. And thank you for playing your role in this. And I have a sneaking suspicion it's not the last time.
Well,
so long as you're willing.
I feel honored that you invited me into this conversation. I really like the format that like two brain processes, trying to extract information from my brain. But it's really a co-creative effort. You know, it's a collaborative experience, and we all always mindful of the audience, and my thoughts are always with the people that are out there that are struggling, that want to do better, that feel disappointed, or they feel like they're being held back, and they want to take that positive action and extricate themselves from relationships that are holding them back. And I think if you are in trouble, go to a hotline, talk to somebody, because what we have created here is such a healthy way of communicating and sharing and making ideas surface that are really healing, that are constructive, that lead to growth.
Well said.
And I know, absolutely well said. And I know that there is lots more that you could say and share with our folks. And I think this is not the last time that you'll be here.
Then I can say, I'll be back.
It's outstanding. Thank you for catching the tip I was giving you there. That was because I think we might have picked up on the fact that you might not be from here originally.
I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
By way of what? Vienna, Austria? Is that
Salzburg, Austria.
Salzburg. Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know why I picked Vienna. Probably because it's the only major city I have ever been to in Austria.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go.
All right. Well, thank you again for making time to be here, and
Thank you.
Again, I know folks are going to get a ton out of this. And what I was thinking about when you were kind of wrapping things up was I want to think about the person that has never heard this kind of information before and didn't know that those negative thoughts and the language and that dialogue that they're having with themselves, it's all of a sudden a light bulb that comes on for them. That's a beautiful thing to think about.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping us pass along the wisdom of the ages.
All right. Well, you know what time it is, Kevin.
It's
time for me to reach over and hit this button here and remind our listeners that no matter who they are, where they are, or what they're doing, they take time between this podcast and the next to enjoy the ride.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.